let's just talk a little bit about how it all began. Let's take it back, because I think what makes it all the more impressive is that you did not come from a background which made it easy for you financially. Your father famously took on all these jobs to make it possible for you. You came really from the bottom to work your way up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been racing a long time. I've been racing for 23 years, which is,
Because you started when you were 8.
I started when I was 8, yeah. And basically it was my parents separated when I was 2, and I'd spend weekends with my dad, and he had no idea what to do with me. He's not particularly comfortable with kids, and he's like, what do I do with this kid on the weekends? And we would watch the Grand Prix, so I started watching Grand Prix from, I think, 5, fascinated with cars, and he bought me a radio control car. And then it just so happened he was living in Hatfield, and one of the neighbors had a professional RC car. And at 5, I think I was 4, he let me drive it. And this is quite expensive, but I was just so good at it. So my dad bought me one for Christmas, and there was a local club up in the countryside, not far from us, and I went and raced against. I was 4 or 5 years old, racing against people of all our age. I was the youngest there by at least 10, 12 years, and I was beating all these, and they would stand up on the rostrum because they're looking down over a track, and I'd had to have like 2 beer or 2 crates to stand up on to be able to see over the wall. And
so your dad was getting the idea that you were probably pretty good at this.
Yeah, because I just had such good hand-to-eye coordination, and the people they couldn't believe at the time. And I went on Blue Peter, I think, when I was 5, racing against adults again, and which is kind of neat. And then I don't know if someone spoke to him about getting me a go-kart, but I think perhaps someone said to him, he does have such good hand-to-eye coordination, how about getting him a kart? And he bought me a go-kart from the Loot, I think it's from the Loot newspaper. It's been owned by like 5 or 6 families, and we drove it around the B&Q car park and up and down the street where we lived, and entered into a local kart track, which is Hoddesdon, called Ride House. And we entered our first 6 races as a novice, and I won my first 6 races as a novice.
And of such thing, dreams are made, because obviously you then went on, you worked your way up, through the different sort of layers of racing, if you like, before you finally hit the heady heights of Formula One. And did you?
It wasn't for us. It was just a hobby, though.
But was there a plan at some? I mean, at some point, did you think?
At some stage, at one point.
Do you think actually I could be doing Formula One? I could be winning Formula One.
Well, already at 5, I wanted to be Ayrton Senna. After watching him, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I know it's very rare, and pretty much I don't think I know any of my friends that knew what they wanted to do at 5. It was actually either Ayrton Senna or Superman, but obviously it couldn't be Superman. So, but the crazy thing about racing is it's not like tennis or football, which are also very hard to get into. But I guess there's only 22 of us in Formula One. So it's the pinnacle of the sport. It's very hard to get there. It's very expensive. And so in my first year, I think my dad spent his life savings already. Him and my stepmom, they spent their life savings, which was 20,000, 30,000 pounds in 1992, 93, I think it was. So after that, he just had to, he had 4 jobs at one stage. He was putting up for sale signs. He was putting in vendor machines. He was doing whatever he could. And in actual fact, he was working for the British Rail, so what he ended up doing was he quit his job because he didn't have the time to prepare my kart and go racing and do the job. So, but they wanted him back, so they said, look, we need you back, but you can do this time in your own time, as long as you get it done. And he was able to do both. So the sacrifice my dad made was just incredible. I think probably parents here tonight probably pushing their kids to do something, and it's so easy to push them too much. And through your dream of wanting to do, because my dad for sure wanted to be a racing driver. I think most guys here wish they could drive. Yeah. So and then after that, we just kept going. I got signed when I was 13 to McLaren. I was the youngest at the time to get signed to a Formula One team.
That's the thing that keeps coming up. When you look at your career, you was the youngest and the best throughout. I mean, as you say, there's only 22 of you. It's an incredibly intense dangerous, madly dangerous sport. I mean, when I watch you, I don't know about how you feel, but you've got those 2 hours or so on the track. The intensity of your focus must be extraordinary. I mean, how do you maintain that?
I don't really know how to do it, to be honest. But I think from 5, I was able to focus on this radio control car. So I guess repetition, practice. We have a simulator, so I spend a little bit of time in there. But I think a lot of it's, what I'm able to do in the car, a lot of it's natural, but a lot of it's really homing in. The difficult part of driving a Formula 1 car is understanding the technology, understanding the car. Firstly, we have 1,300 people in our team to make 2 of those cars for the year. That's a big team. And pretty much everything's built in-house. Every year it's brand new stuff. It's just so high-tech. It's fascinating. For me to see the car coming together at the beginning of the year, it's like a newborn baby. It's just mind-blowing. And then through the year, it's progressing the whole time from race to race. We've got 21 races, so every weekend it's improving a tenth or 2/10 or 3/10 of a second, which by the end of the year obviously adds up to a couple of seconds faster. But there in the car is understanding how I can communicate what I'm feeling through my body, through my butt, to these engineers who are from Oxford and Harvard, and help them mold the car, to enable me to drive it to take it to another place, which is quite crazy.
And how do you prepare for a race? I mean, the risk is off the scale for you, and a moment's inattention can be critical. I mean, how do you get your head around that?
I think perhaps some people today see the danger, and others perhaps just see us getting. And most people I meet, they don't understand why we have to be fit. I don't have to be big and bulky. Actually, I have to keep my weight quite low, because with the car has to be a certain weight. If I'm 1 kilo overweight for example, a race that's 66 laps, like the last race, for example, if I was 1 kilo over through the 66 laps, I would lose 3 seconds, just from being 1 kilo heavy.
Wow.
So
did you know that?
That's So 1 kilo is worth 0.03 of a second. So it's just.
I'll remember
incredible.
that when I put myself on the scales tomorrow morning. Yeah, that's a whole new way of thinking about it.
Yeah, but mostly it's the G-force. The car is like it's like a plane upside down, but because we have all these wings, basically, obviously a plane has lift. I always describe it to people. Imagine you're driving down the road and you have your window down. You put your hand out the window, it blows your hand back. And if you put your hand down, it blows your hand down. And all our wings are like that. So the faster we go, the more force that's generated. And I think at 200 miles an hour, we have over a ton, maybe 2 tons of downforce just from the air. And so when I turn at 200 miles an hour, or 150 miles an hour, the thing goes like a rocket in whatever direction I point it in. But then you're on the ragged edge. It is obviously dangerous. The most vulnerable part is our head, the helmet. Some drivers, we've had 2 drivers pass away in the last couple of years, one in IndyCar, one in Formula 1, because that's the one part that's exposed. The rest of our body is very, very safe now. Technology is so advanced that it is safe. But of course, we're all conscious of that when we do get in the car. And I guess we're all a bit crazy to be able to do what we do.
And when you finished, when you get out of the car, how do you come down from that experience?
Well, from race to race is different in terms of physicality. So there's one race in Malaysia, for example, I lose 4.5 kilos in an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes.
We're just sweating it out.
Yeah, and that's horrible. 4 kilos lost in that time. It's hard to stand sometimes afterwards. But and then in other races, we do have a drinks tube in the car, so we generally have like half a liter. So you're trying to sip that through the race to keep yourself hydrated. I mean, a lot of the races I don't drink at all because it's extra weight, and I'm on the limit of the weight right now. So another half a kilo of liquid, I'm like, I can't afford it right now. So there's not really much to me to be able to lose, and so I don't know really where I'm going to lose it. But generally afterwards, I switch off. You just switch in and out. I don't know really. You have a big come down at the end of the day.
You must do. I mean, what is that like?
You just hit a wall and you pass out. It's so focused. It's throughout the weekend. Like, for example, I'm at Monaco already starts tomorrow for me. So when I get back to Monaco tonight, tomorrow morning, tomorrow is our usual Thursday, and it's media, it's engineering. Yesterday I was at the factory. So we had just board meetings where we talk about where we were last year, what we've done in the last race, set up the challenges of the track, all these different things that are coming up this weekend, and you just hope that you start on the right foot. Monaco is about one step at a time, building up, because one little mess up, it really knocks your confidence back, and it's really hard to get back there. So it's about just taking baby steps and building a real foundation of confidence and keep growing it.
And you say Monaco is faster, what, 2 seconds faster?
Well, basically, we are in the last year of this era of car. So they design a car, and then it lasts for 3, 4, 5 years, and then they come up with new regs. So next year we have new rules. But this is an evolution of the car from 3 years ago, from 2014. And it just gets faster and faster as we continue to add performance. So last year, I think we did a 1:15 or 1:14.9 there. This year, we'll probably be in the 1:13s. Because also the tires are softer this year, so.
Wow.
And I was watching on board of the track yesterday, and I was like, have you got it on fast forward? Because it was just so fast how quick we go through Monaco. It's actually, I was watching it, and it's kind of scary watching it, thinking that I'm going to be doing that this weekend. It's actually petrifying when you get on I'm crazy, so I don't really get scared, but I know I'm going onto the track this weekend, and by the time you've got to full throttle, these things are they're still, it's literally, I'm controlling it, I'm sitting on a rocket. I've got a big fuel tank of 100 kilos behind me, a big battery ERS pack, which it could, any time that exploded, you're done. Fortunately, it's very safe, but it's just mind-blowing how quick we go through these corners, and you can't see around the corner. So you arrive at the top of Casino at 190 miles an hour, and you're picking out all these, and it's crazy how the mind works, because you're pulling all this information in. You can't see what's around the corner, but hoping that where you've turned has been the right point, so you don't hit the barrier or go wide. So
we'll all be hoping this weekend. My goodness. And do you ever? Also, you've got the racing season, then you have your time out. Do you ever come back and think, just momentarily, can I do this?
Well, I never feel that.
No, but you know what I mean. Just kind of.
Sure.
Am I still at the same?
Yeah, I think this is probably the first year that I've ever really felt that we had a longer break. So usually, season ends in end of November, and then you kind of have a bit. You have a PR stuff for another couple of weeks, and then you have your couple-week winter break, and then you start training already for the next season. Like next season, the car is going to be 2-3 seconds faster, so physically it's going to be harder next year. So I've got to prepare for that through the winter. But this year I got back in the car and I was, you don't know. You kind of, have I still got it? Have I still got the reaction time? Have I still got my goal was always to emulate Ayrton Senna and win 3 World Championships, and I've done that. So what's the next step? Where else do I want to go with it? And it just
where
so
else
happens,
do you want to go? Yeah.
I just happen to be the most competitive person I know. So anytime I get in any competition, I just want to win. And that's where I am right now.
And what about Lewis Hamilton when he's not racing? Because you've got a big hinterland of interest that you like that perhaps people aren't so aware of.
I generally, I remember when I was younger, very narrow-minded about things I wanted to do. I was very narrow-minded about racing, obviously. And but music's always been a passion. There's lots of different things that I like. I'm trying to dibble and dabble in everything that I possibly can to see what I do and don't like. Most racing drivers, I've calculated that I've got probably 7 years left, 6-7 years. So I've got 3 years starting this year with Mercedes, of whom I've been with since I was 13. So it's a great long partnership with this family of who have taken me in and really supported me for so long. So it's quite a unique experience there. And but yeah, most drivers, they stop and become commentators or managers, and I've always thought I really don't want to do that. It's not that it's not a good job or anything, it's just not for me. So right now is really about building, firstly, understanding and finding out what I want to do beyond, building the brand, building the foundation now, so that when I stop, I have something to move on to. So that's really what I'm in discovery right now. But there's so many kids that I'm meeting now. I remember when I was 11, I went to my first Grand Prix and I saw Davy Coulthard come by and just thinking one day I want to do what you do. And now I'm meeting kids that are in the same position I was in. So it is really a platform for me to inspire young kids doing what I do. I don't know how sometimes it inspires people, because I meet people and they're like, your win last weekend or your season got me through this experience that I went through. Beyond that, I don't know, I definitely want to do something with kids. I love kids, and kids are the future. So that's probably going to be part of my focus.
Look, I could talk to you for a very long time. There's so many things I want to ask you, not least about, possibly that crash with Rosberg and all sorts of things. But we've run out of time, just you and me. But we've got time for questions from you on the floor now. Cool. So yes, there's a hand back there. We'll get a microphone to you.
Thank you so much for such a fascinating and insightful conversation. I've got to ask, as we're at a Google event, what do you make of driverless cars? And might we see a driverless F1? Hopefully not within 7 years. But what are your thoughts on that? In terms of taking that bend in Monaco?
Thank you. Well, I love technology. I think Mercedes have done a driverless car. I personally, when I'm particularly here in the UK, I don't drive a lot on the road. But I don't know if I can.
It must be so boring. I'm not surprised.
I don't know. I think in some ways it's going to be great for people, particularly if you want privacy and you want to do business while you're on the road. I like to be in control most of the time. I'm actually a very good passenger, so I sleep a lot of the time. I don't like to drive long distances, so I think it'll be kind of neat, but I'm most likely not going to be having one of those cars. And I absolutely hope that it's not in my period of time. I mean, they've brought out, for example, Formula E. I'm very much old school. I love, the engines. I love the smell of the fuel, the oil, the rubber, everything burning. And the electric cars don't have, it's like a coming past. So I want the big sound. We don't have the sound anymore. Unfortunately, it's not great, but it's better than nothing.
Yes, there's a question here.
Thanks. How does it work in the team? I mean, you're competing with your teammate, but it's one team. So how do you get the synergies between both groups? When you have the board meetings, is it board meeting together, or are there two board meetings? How does all that work?
It's a good question. It's very difficult for sure, because it is a team, but there's two championships. There's the constructors, which obviously the team is most focused on and care about most. And individually, as drivers, we want to win. We want to be at the front. We want to be the one that wins, that's ahead of the other. So it's striking a balance of your own drive to want to succeed and win the championship, but also doing what your duty is to bag the points for the team. And particularly when, naturally, when the car next to you is exactly the same, all data is shared, finding improving, it's really, really hard. You arrive on the weekend, and you go out, do a good time, then the guy sees your lap, then he'll go out and try and do the same, might beat it, and if he does, then you've got to go. So you're just constantly moving forwards. When we have the board meetings, generally we have them together. But for example, yesterday I'm with my engineers, because we are, both sides of the garage are kind of a unit, and we're not discussing what Nico's doing. We're focusing on what we've got to do to be able to win it. And Nico will be over there conspiring to do whatever he's got to do to win. What it comes down to is management, and we've got really great bosses who are very approachable from everyone. And in terms of the size of the garage, we try and mix as much as possible. I mean, the garage people do move around a little bit, but when I walk into the garage, I go and spend time with Nico's guys, and vice versa. And we do big team dinners, so it's important to keep that synergy between us all. And as for me and Nico, we just try our hardest to not let we've been racing since we were 13, me and Nico, so we've had that for a long, long time. And I think that will be there for, that competitiveness streak that we have together will be there until we retire. And probably even when we're 50, 60 years old, he'll still be trying to beat me at something. So, that's how it is.
Yes, question right at the back there.
Thank you. I would like to bring you back to your first World Championship, which is, for every driver, probably the most important one, because it's sort of a break the ice psychologically. And I recall it very well, because I was at the Grand Prix in Brazil. It was such a roller coaster of emotions, which I'd like to leave it from your point of view. And how was that roller coaster ride for you?
Yeah, well, it was terrible. It was a nightmare. It was honestly, of course, wanting to be in Formula One, got there on the scene. When you're building up to Formula One, you're obviously preparing to race, but you're not prepared for what comes along with being a Formula One driver. The pressure of such a big team, sponsors, media, sitting on stage talking. You're not prepared for that. You're not put through a school or through other interviews for it. So you arrive in the deep end without being able to swim. And I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I got into, obviously I was quick on track. That was the easy part. It was everything outside. But lost the first year in 2007 by 1 point, which was depending on how serious you take your job, it was emotionally traumatizing the first year. Came back the next year somehow, came through that experience. And then in that last race, I had to finish 5th. I started 3rd, I think it was. And I was 4th, 5th. And then with probably like 7 laps to go or something, I was down in 6th. And the guy that was ahead of me was Sebastian Vettel. And there was, if I had to do, if I couldn't do anything even to save my mother's life. If my mum was over there on the edge of the cliff, I had to pass him in order to. I couldn't get past him. I couldn't get past this guy. And for those laps, I just wasn't giving up, but I could see that dream fading away. And then the last lap, some guy was on slick tires. I was on wets. He was stumbling. There's quite a few of them were stumbling. I was overtaking cars here and there. I had no idea where I was. I thought they were back markers. The guy came across the line and thought he, for a second, was world champion. And then I came across the line 17 seconds later. And I crossed the line and I thought I lost the world championship. So my heart sunk. I was distraught. And then, I don't know why they took so long, but like 12, 13 seconds later, they told me I was world champion. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I think just at the time, after that big whirlwind of media, back at the factory, there was so much attention. I was only 23, so I just don't feel don't forget, growing up, instead of hanging out with friends on the weekends and, doing normal kids' social life stuff, I was racing. I was with adults. So I missed that a lot, that maturity growing up stage. And I don't feel I was mature enough to really be able to embrace the whole experience and enjoy it. So I tell you, it was not a great, whilst it's amazing that I won the championship, it just wasn't able to enjoy it, and rolled into the second year, the year after that, for example. But the last 2 championships have really, I guess, coming of an age, been able to really absorb it and enjoy the moment, because so much work has gone in from my family. So, I don't take it for granted, the opportunity that I have, for one. There are so many people that would cut their leg off to be in my seat and do what I do. So I make sure that I maximize every time I get in the car. I'm representing my family every time I get in that car. And so there's nothing, there's no time for second place. Of course, those experiences, when you have those lows, like losing the world championship, only make you stronger when you do, or realize these heights and lows. Obviously, once you've had the low, you appreciate the highs even more. So.
And so, presumably, particularly frustrating for you this season. I mean, it's early days, yeah, but
it's a killer season. It's terrible. Obviously, I had a couple of amazing years, the last 2. I would say this is, luckily through the experience of the 10 years of racing, you kind of, you have the ups and downs, and I definitely think these past 5 races have been massively testing for myself, for my mechanics, for my engineers. I think each time I see it as a challenge to rise. I see it as a challenge to, I'm going to be facing the media right now, but I feel terrible. I'm angry that I lost the race or something like that. But it's a moment for me the kids that are watching, to me to say the right things. It's a moment for me to lift my guys up who are probably feeling just as much as me, or back at the factory who work non-stop to build my car. So there's so much going on, and I feel like often when I do it right, I feel so much, I come out of it so much stronger. And so I do feel this is just trials and tribulations. This is a period of time of growth for me that whilst there's always growth, no matter, I met Nelson Mandela once when he was 90 for his 90th birthday, and he said to me that he was still learning at that time. So I have a long way to go, so hopefully.
We can take one final question if there's, yes, just in the middle there.
Luis, you're extremely exposed to stress, media, competitors, teams, and everything. How do you prepare yourself to be so focused, to handle all this massive stress?
Really, it's trying to just remain focused on the job at hand and the task. My goal this weekend is to win this race. All the other stuff is all just noise, and it's just, I guess it's just through experience kind of being able to silence all of that and stay focused on what's the most important thing. So not be distracted by all the media, all the cameras. I mean, tomorrow there's so many interviews, mostly with the same people that we always have. So I've been talking to these guys for 10 years, and they're often asking the same question that they asked me 2 weeks ago. But obviously they have something more to talk about this weekend because the last race was terrible. But I think it really is just trying to, I guess, compartmentalize really that stuff put over here, put it in a box, and then keep the energy and your focus on the one thing that matters most. All that other stuff does not matter. What matters is me and this team, how we're going to get from Friday or Thursday this week, for example, to Sunday, standing on top of that podium. And it's sleep, it's what I eat, it's what I spend my time doing, making sure I get to bed early, all these different things that add up to it. And sometimes you do it all perfect and it doesn't go well, but that's life. And you just hope that in doing all the right things, but it's also trying to find a balance. You need to enjoy life as well. At some stage my career will be over, and I want to look back and say I enjoyed absolutely everything, every moment in the car, every moment out of it.
I'm afraid, much as I wish we could carry on, we have to end it there. Will you join me in thanking the hugely impressive and very charming Lewis Hamilton?